Well, hi and hello to all the popcorn talkers, and welcome to another episode of Second Way to Kill a Werewolf. My name is Damien, and with me as always is my co-host, Matthias Rodriguez. Matthias, how you doing, man? And you may realize I did not have a cool nickname for you this time around. My apologies. The Phenom. Matthias the Phenom Rodriguez. We're going to go with that.
There we go. There's something. Yeah. But no, I am doing really well. Yeah, it's been good. So yeah. So thank you. I am very much a phenom.
Yes. All right. Phenomenal phenomenon, as it were. But for those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome to the Silver Bullet Cinema portion of our little show here, where we take a look back at some of the greatest movies of our time, as well as the not so great movies of our time, but we enjoy anyway. We'll go through some taglines, casting, fun facts, and follow all that up with a scene-by-scene breakdown that just might make your next doom scroll for what to watch a little bit easier. That said, without any further ado, let's go ahead and prepare for Mortal Kombat. So, Mortal Kombat came out in 1995 and was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. If that name sounds familiar, it's because you are probably also familiar with some of his other movies, like The Musketeers, Soldier, Death Race, Pompeii, and of course, a little minor successful franchise called Resident Evil. But from what I remember, there were actually 3 other video game movies based that came out, because I know Resident Evil obviously is a very popular video game based movie, as is Mortal Kombat. And most people kind of find themselves in that conversation like, you know what? At least cool people find themselves in that conversation saying, you know what? What was the first, or at least the first couple of video game based movies that came out back in the day, or just in history in general? And Matthias, do you want to go ahead and try to take a shot at a guess? Because guess what? There were 3 before Mortal Kombat. Most people think
3
first one, but there were actually 3. At least in my research. Who knows? Somebody out there is going to go ahead and find somebody. Well, actually, Damien, maybe, I don't know. But from my research, there were actually 3. I'll be impressed if you can name 2 out of the 3.
All right. Well, I know one is very, very well known amongst, the circles of anybody who, watches video game films or study that phenomenon. One of them is Super Mario Brothers, of course. Not
Correct.
The recent one that has, been given a chance again, through animation, but the original live action one, which had little to do with the actual game, it seems. So that's one that I can point out to. I believe Street Fighter was the other one, right? I think that one came out, 1994, I want to say?
That is correct. Yeah, 1994.
And then I think the only one I can think of was, I think Double Dragon was also one of them.
Wow, okay, that's a reach. That's the one that I didn't think you were going to get, because that was a little, I want to say a little before your time, but maybe right around the time where you were just figuring out what movies were. I don't know, but
okay.
Double Dragon, yes.
Yeah.
Double Dragon is the other one, starring the guy. Main things that I remember this guy from, and I feel bad because I don't remember his name, but most people will probably remember him from, I was going to say Top Chef. It's that cooking show, Iron Chef. He's the host for that, and came out in some other movie talking about, what was it, capoeira as a fighting style or something like that. It was this old, martial arts movies when they were huge back in the 90s, which kind of fits in. More than likely that movie came out before Double Dragon, and there you go. They went ahead and casted him in Double Dragon, so there you go. Other major releases, though, because with that being said, there are other major releases that came out during the same year as 1995. As much as we'd like to go ahead and sit here and think that Mortal Kombat was the only ultimate movie that came out that year, there were actually other ones that came. And because of that, we're going to go ahead and play a little game called Other Major Releases Game, because I lack the creativity to come up with a better name. And to be honest with you, I like the name Other Major Releases Game. So with that being said, here's how the game is going to be played. I will proceed to name actors from these major films that came out, to which Matthias here is going to do his best to guess the name of the film. Doesn't sound too difficult, right? Well, guess what? I won't be starting off with the main stars. No, 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 no. We are a movie podcast, for crying out loud, ladies and gentlemen. So every now and again, we need to stretch our limbs and, as it were, test our might. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and start with the first one. Estelle Harris.
Well, this is already going good because I don't know who that is.
Don Rickles.
Don Rickles. Oh, Toy Story?
Wow, very well done. Okay, yes, that is correct. Toy Story 1995. All right.
That was 95?
1995, believe it or not. I know. Time goes on, as they say. So the next movie that we're going to go ahead and do, I'm going to start off with a little actor named Chris O'Donnell.
I know Batman. Is it? No, it's not Returns. It's Batman Forever or Batman Robin?
Batman Forever. Nope, you are correct. Batman Forever as it was. And you know, the interesting thing is if you didn't get it after Chris O'Donnell, I wondered if you were going to get it after the next one because she's a very well-known actress, but not very well-known. Not a lot of people remember her in that movie. Drew Barrymore actually came out in that movie, as did Debbie Mazar.
Oh, yeah.
Two-Face's girlfriends, I believe. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do a couple more and then we'll move on here. So the next movie, 1995, Bill Paxton.
Man, he was in a lot of movies, honestly, in like the 80s and 90s. Bill Paxton. Okay, you're going to have to go to the next name.
Ed Harris.
Ed Harris. I know that actor too, but yeah, this one I don't know. This one's not ringing a bell.
Gary Sinise.
Harris. Is it a movie that has to deal with like a submarine or something like that, or is it a military film?
Maybe, kind of, sort of, in a way. I see the direction that you're going, but I don't want to give away too much. You'll probably get it after this one. Okay, I'll give it. No, you know what? I'm going to keep this going a little bit more difficult. Clint Howard.
Clint Howard. The Abyss?
No, that's a miss with The Abyss. Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, I'm drawing a major blank. I can't think of it.
Really? Okay, last one, and I think you'll get it after this one. Tom Hanks.
Wait, Forrest Gump?
Nope, that was, I think, 92 or 94, somewhere there.
Okay, so Tom Hanks is in it as well, too. Nothing's coming up. Yeah, I can't think of it.
Houston, we have a problem.
Oh, okay. Apollo 13?
Apollo 13, yeah, Apollo 13. That was kind of a tough one. I'll be honest with you, though. I'm surprised that you missed this one and got Toy Story in two actors that, yeah, not a lot of people would be able to recall. So kudos to you on that one, man. Okay, next movie. This will be our last one. We'll go ahead and move on. Bonnie Hunt.
Nope.
David Allen Greer.
Jumanji?
Wow. Okay. Yes. Very well done. Jumanji it is. That's wow. Okay, that's impressive. I didn't think that you were going to get that, to be honest.
What do I win?
Absolutely nothing.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I have no prizes to say. If I did, I don't know. If I did, I'd probably say a day off. How about that? But seeing as though we don't get paid for this anyways, you know, it is what it is. All right. So that's going to bring us to our next little segment here that we like to call Let's Talk Numbers. And according to the numbers of this little movie, Mortal Kombat 1995, as I just stated, the year of release, it came out July 13th, 1995. The runtime is 1 hour and 41 minutes. The budget was $20 million, if you can believe that, man. I mean, nowadays, that's, you know, $20 million is I'm not going to say is nothing because $20 million is still a lot of money. But realistically, when you're comparing it to other movies that are like upwards of $200 million in terms of big Hollywood blockbuster budgets. 20 million sounds pretty modest, but that said, this movie domestically brought in $70.5 million and globally $122.2 million. How many awards did this one win, you ask? Absolutely none. What ranking was it in terms of other major releases in 1995 in terms of global box office performance? Well, this one, believe it or not, was not number one. It was ranked number 26. Matthias, do you care to take a guess at which one was ranked number one, 1995, with $366 million globally?
1995. Was it any of the movies that we just did for the last segment?
It would have been if we had gotten to it, but it was one of the ones. I was saving it for this portion of the show, actually. So right. You want to take a guess? Guess, feel free.
I can't think of anything that's coming up. Yeah, I can't think of it, so.
No? All right. Die Hard with a Vengeance, starring Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson. That was a great movie, actually. I really did enjoy that one. Solid trilogy, part 1, 2, and 3. After that, well, I think, what was it called? Die Hard. I don't know. I'm just going to call it Die Hard part 4. And then after that, I kind of just fell off, I think. It is what it is. But yeah, solid trilogy. And then part 4 was pretty good too. So I don't know what you would call not a trilogy, but with 4 movies, quadrilogy.
Quadrilogy, yeah.
Is that what it would be called?
That's the actual term, yeah, quadrilogy.
Somehow that word didn't make sense in my head as I was about to say it out loud. And I'm like, oh, Damien, you're in danger of making yourself sound stupid. Turns out I should have just trusted my gut. And now I sound stupid for a whole different reason. So fun fact with numbers, because like I said, this portion is talking about numbers. 10. The soundtrack went platinum in 10 months for this movie, Mortal Kombat, selling over 1 million copies, believe it or not. And I honestly am, guilty of purchasing said soundtrack in cassette, I might add. It was a cassette that I purchased of that because I was roughly, about yay high during that time frame. I'm not going to go ahead and give my age, even though most of you can probably guess. But nonetheless, this movie was a big one. The actors, though, that came out in it were not really that well known. In fact, the biggest actor, I would say, of note who had done, I think, Highlander and some other movies was actually Christopher Lambert or Christopher Lambert. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. I believe it's Christopher Lambert is how I heard. But in any case, he played, of course, Raiden. Robin Shao played Liu Kang. Lyndon Ashby played Johnny Cage. Kerry Hiroyuki Tagawa played Shang Tsung. Bridget Wilson played Sonya Blade. Talissa Soto for Kitana. Writers were Kevin Droney. Director was Paul W.S. Anderson. And the producer was Lawrence Kasanoff. The only other movie that I can remember that I saw Robin Shao in after this was one of my favorite comedies, which was Beverly Hills Ninja. Did you ever watch that one?
Yeah, I've seen that one.
That movie, that's one of the reels that we have going out there as well, as far as a job interview and saying when I put stealth on a job interview. So if y'all haven't seen that one, anybody who's watching this, watch that. And the build up of that just moment where you feel like you ran out of time for something, whether it's turning in a test or, I don't know, project that's due or whatever, like that scene really encapsulates what it feels like in terms of music and drums going to feel that sudden rush of anxiety. And then all of a sudden, Haru or Chris Farley just like jumps out the wall or tears through the wall because he can't find a good hiding place worth it. But in any case, if you haven't seen that reel, ladies and gentlemen, I definitely recommend going out to Instagram and checking that out because it's pretty funny. And while you're there, check out our other reels. But yeah, so Raiden cast as, Christopher Lambert cast as Raiden. I was okay with that. Of course, I was, young, so I wasn't really thinking in terms of anything like, representation or anything like that. But this was one of those casted characters that, I don't know. I think that for that time, for that film, it worked. I actually really did like his performance as that character. He just brought this kind of sense of I don't know, mystery and just a calm confidence, I guess, or something like calm strength, basically. Definitely somebody not to be trifled with is what I got from him. He definitely didn't have to display any sort of powers or anything like that to command respect, I felt. Although I guess in the case of Liu Kang, yeah, he did have to kind of show off his styles or show off his powers to be able to get any sort of recognition from him. But yeah, I liked his portrayal of Raiden. What about you, Matthias? What was your opinion on his portrayal?
Yeah, I mean, certainly like with Christopher Lambert attached to this, he's amongst like the cast in the film. He's like the most seasoned of them all, and definitely kind of not only does he establish himself as sort of like a mentor as his role as Lord Raiden in the film, but he also really was able to sort of help out a lot with sort of kind of getting all the other cast members in line and getting them prepared for their film. So a lot of the cast, once they've done like interviews of how was it working with this person and this person, pretty much everybody said working with Christopher Lambert was just a very good feeling overall, because he really took it upon himself to sort of like teach everybody the ropes of how to sort of operate within their lines, operate within their scenes, and he gave them a lot of reassurance about the role themselves as well too. So that's, at least from like what I've heard of interviews, like he was just a really great guy to work with and just super devoted to the project as well too. Like, clearly he's been in other films and he's been, within the Hollywood sphere for a long time, but he didn't, turn his nose up on something like this. Like, he really believed in like what this could be, and it being one of the most notable video game adaptations, of history. I mean, that's nothing to discount, I feel.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think I know it's one of those things also where I know we have the new version of Mortal Kombat, and I feel, and rightfully so, they're similar in some ways, but they're two different types of films. Kind of similar to like, and the reason I bring that up is because I like the cast of characters that they were able to get put together for the new movie. I just recently saw Mortal Kombat Part Two, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't like it as much as that wait was making me want to enjoy it from
Mm.
October to wait all the way to now. I don't think that this movie was worth that wait. I really do think this movie could have released in October of last year. And to be honest with you, I know that October was a record low for since I think like I don't know what it was 2017 one of the stories that we had done about it. One of the lowest box office takes ever in that month. But I really do feel with as much hype as was behind this film, and it was surrounded by other movies that just were not really hitting, I feel like it would have done better to
Mm.
release in October. I could be completely wrong because now here we are in this rich release area time frame of movies coming out for this month, and it kind of motivates you as general audiences are concerned to go back to the movies because you're seeing this one, you're like, man, I had a great time with this movie. Oh wow, there's another great one. Okay, maybe I'll go. So maybe there's that. Maybe the timing of release for now was able to happen at a time where audiences were going to feel that motivation to go back and see it, to where they saw one earlier and then they're going to go back and see this
Mm.
one. So there's that. But I also kind of look at it from the perspective of it kind of had the whole box office month to itself. That's my opinion. And it just to me wasn't worth the hype of the wait. It was worth the hype, I think, for the trailers that was showing it. I thought it was a good film, but it just, I don't know, something, it was just kind of lacking. I felt like they can't really decide on what story arc they're going to go with because part one followed Cole Young. And that's, okay, I get that. Let's go ahead and introduce a character to the world. And, new viewers are watching Mortal Kombat for the first time through this character's eyes, learning what it is. Okay. Then we get to part two. And then we have more of a story arc around Katana, but also kind of a story arc around Johnny Cage. And in a world where one is supporting the other, it almost seemed like they were competing for main protagonist, in my opinion. That's just my thoughts on it. And because of that, I feel, and then you kind of had Liu Kang, I guess, potentially setting up something for a part three later on down the line with anything that happens there. I won't give away too much, but it was just kind of, I don't know. It was a good movie. It delivered on what you would expect from a gore fest, action packed film for sure. It's a fun time at the movies. I 100% think if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, you're going to enjoy this film and it's going to be worth the time and the money that you spend. But it just wasn't held to the caliber of, all right, we're going to postpone this movie, even though it's 100% ready for release in October, and then we're going to release it in May. I don't know. What was your opinion on that, Matthias? 'Cause I understand you saw this one as well, right?
Oh yeah, I checked it out as well too. I was also the mind. I felt that this was ready to go in October. It would have done, I think, a lot better had it stuck to its original release. So I think like the studio execs just kind of got scared and decided to push it a little bit further, which I don't think that panned out well. And I share the same feeling to where it's a movie that has too many plot lines that doesn't really have the effort or the wherewithal to sort of like focus on one single one. Because I did appreciate that while the trailers did focus on Johnny Cage as a character and sort of kind of set him up as probably being the protagonist for this film, I did appreciate that they are giving similar light to Katana and her story, as well as a little bit of Liu Kang as well too
For
there.
sure.
But having all those trying to work not necessarily in concert, but kind of sort of like, okay, well, we're done with this end of the line for Katana's story. Now let's go back to Johnny, and then now let's go to Liu Kang, and let's go here. It jumps around too many times to where you're not exactly sure who to really follow, and it's kind of you're just being strung along for the fights. And
Mm,
while I understand that anybody who is wanting to watch like a Mortal Kombat film is like, yeah, it's a movie about a gory fighting game. It's like there has to be those moments that really are playing homage to both the games of the past and then the more contemporary ones that have come out recently. But when you're adapting something like that into a story, you need to have a one cohesive line that you want to follow so that your audience isn't thinking, well, I don't know who to follow and I don't know who to care about the most in this story. Then what's the point? So it's like you have to have something cohesive so that people can still be involved within the story and still like understand, okay, there's a plot line in this movie. It's not just we're just getting to the next fight and the next fight and next fight because for the sake of whatever.
yeah.
So that I think was my biggest takeaway from watching it. I actually saw it twice, once with two different set of friends. But in watching it both times, I still came to the same conclusion of like, it's fun. It's a really great movie to watch, for those action sequences and all that stuff. And it definitely is playing more to the strengths of the franchise overall, but it isn't really well written and it's not, I would say, a strong story overall.
Mm,
So
yeah.
that's kind of what I get from it.
I think that's a fair thing to say. We'll see. I think I haven't checked recently as far as how much this movie has pulled in globally, like for an up to date figure. It's done well. Like don't get me wrong here. I'm fair. It's done well enough to where I'm sure there's going to be a part three. In fact, I think they've already announced that they're going to start filming part three. And I'm hoping for, I don't know. I don't know what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for a movie that is just going to keep getting better. But
Mhm.
because I was going to say, like, well, part one was pretty good. Then part two, a lot of people would say that part two got a lot more right that part one didn't. And I kind of want to say something right now because I want to talk about, but I don't want to give spoilers. And all I'm going to say, Matthias, is it's interesting how opinions change about characters, and see if you kind of pick up on what I'm trying to say regarding certain characters. Because like I said, I'm not gonna spoil it here if anybody's listening to it that hasn't seen it, because it's still a fresh movie that's come out. But I'll mention what I mean off air, as it were.
Mhm.
um but yeah, so from part one to part two, some would say there was a huge increase in terms of quality. I kind of still find myself liking part one. I enjoy part one. It's a fun movie to put on and just work your way through. Much like part one, though, part two, Kano definitely brings a great element to this film.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so we'll see what part three is going to bring eventually down the line. But right now, we're not talking about part two or part three. We're talking about part one, the original 1995 Mortal Kombat. And with that movie came a couple of taglines that, for those of you that don't know, taglines are basically just another way to market the film. They're just movie lines that are lines that just help to market the film in promotional posters and illustrations and things like that. Kind of just quick statements that send a message, as it were. So to give you an idea of what we're talking about, the first tagline that was released of this movie: "Choose your destiny. ... Fight." I like that one. That one's straight to the point. That one is for anybody that played the video game back in the day. You saw a tagline promoting a movie like this because, like you mentioned it, the other video game movies that came out prior to this were Super Mario, Double Dragon, and Street Fighter. And while Street Fighter was an exciting time because, much like this one, it was a movie that most people at that age or around that time played the video game and were just excited to see these characters on the big screen. That's kind of what happened with this one as well. So when you see things that you know from the game, as a gamer, you got excited. And back then, yes, I would consider myself a gamer. Not so much. Back when there was only like 4 or 6 buttons on the controller. Now it's God knows what's going on with these games. You young rascals. But yeah, so choose your destiny, fight. Next tagline: "Nothing in this world has prepared you for this." What do you think about that one, Matthias?
Foreboding, kind of gives a little bit of sort of suspense and surprise. I think that one's a good one. I like that one a lot.
Okay. "Combat begins," but with a K.
Yeah, that's straight out of the game, I think.
Yeah, I'd say so. Of course, this one: "Flawless victory." I think everybody knows that one, of course. And the last tagline is "Test your might." All of these taken straight from the video game pretty much, but very, very relevant to this movie. Not just because, obviously they adapted the movie to the game, but I think it's just, you can take a line from a movie or from a video game, throw it in the movie, and still have it kind of not really match what the contents of the movie was or what the theme was or anything like that. You can just throw it in there and be like, this doesn't make any sense. Why are you throwing this in there?
Yeah.
And great example off the top of my head, but believe me when I say it does happen. But yeah, overall, those are your taglines. I like them. I think they work. They definitely did help to promote this film. So that is going to go ahead and bring us down to the synopsis of this film. And the synopsis is, well, 3 fighters, Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, and Johnny Cage, are drawn to a mysterious island to compete in Mortal Kombat, an ancient tournament that decides the fate of Earthrealm. Guided by the Thunder God Raiden, they must confront the sorcerer Shang Tsung, his supernatural warriors, and the monstrous champion Goro. Outworld has already won 9 tournaments, and a 10th victory will allow its emperor to invade Earth. As the battles intensify, each hero faces personal fears and discovers their true strength. With help from the enigmatic Katana, they challenge Shang Tsung to prevent Earth's destruction and break Outworld's winning streak. That's a nice little synopsis, I thought, with a little bit of it gets to the point. Well, I mean, you know what? That said, there's no need to analyze the film, I think. I mean, that's a wrap, I think. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we really hope that you enjoyed your time here. Can you imagine? Yeah, we're just going to stop there. The synopsis said it all, and we're just going to talk about that. But for those of you that were waiting for this multi-scene breakdown, do not despair. We're going to go ahead and get started on that right now with Mortal Kombat, the 1995 version. Scene 1 opens with Liu Kang's brother facing Shang Tsung. After what looks like to be futile attempts at defeating him, Chan gets roundhouse kicked down to the floor and has his back brutally broken. Shang Tsung then proceeds to taunt Liu Kang, and it is revealed that this is just a nightmare sequence, probably caused by the guilt of letting his brother die. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the world, we're introduced to Sonya Blade in pursuit of Kano through a crowded nightclub, where it's revealed that Kano set her up to get lured into following him to the tournament at Shang Tsung's behest. Elsewhere, Johnny Cage is in the middle of filming his next movie. Frustrated with the other actors, he walks off set to find what he thinks is an old mentor, but really, it's Shang Tsung in disguise pushing him to join the tournament. Scene 1, what are some takeaways for you, Matthias, that come to mind with this one?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest things I think that also sets the stage, even before the movie begins, is, of course, the soundtrack. And the pretty much the unofficial theme, of course, of Mortal Kombat, Techno Syndrome, which honestly just... it's such a good choice, I feel, because I can't think of anything else other than really EDM being almost like a perfect precursor to something like Mortal Kombat,
Hmm.
which there's a lot of sort of inspiration. There's a lot of talk about what the studio wanted in terms of music for this movie, because they were either going like with Sony or with or Virgin Records for starting out like their soundtrack, but a lot of them wanted to do like actual licensed music from like Van Halen or from Janet Jackson, but the
Hmm.
studio pretty much just said no. It's like we don't want to go with like a big name or whatever attached to the soundtrack. It's like we wanted to start something small. We wanted to be EDM. We wanted to some sort of be like something that you would hear out of a arcade cabinet. So they instead, of course, went with this little small band called the Immortals that then, produced the super well known soundtrack, Techno Syndrome, and thus is pretty much our theme for Mortal Kombat that is used
Huh.
pretty much now until, you know, since then. So it just kind of starts that out. But setting up like the characters and all that stuff there, like getting a little bit of their personalities and all that together, I think it's a good little setup there.
Hmm.
Sort of getting also a sense of like their motivations or also their weaknesses there. So you already know that Liu Kang is going to be sort of haunted by the death of Shan there. You get a sense that Sonya Blade is someone that's driven by revenge in pursuing Kano. And
Hmm.
you get a sense that Johnny Cage is just, he's kind of a cocky guy, a cocky actor. So kind of seeing a little bit of that at the beginning to and how that will interplay with like the rest of the narrative is, I think, a very good setup to begin with.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. You're right. Johnny Cage is definitely just as Raiden says later on down the line, you'll join any rush out into any contest to prove that you are better than what other people might think. So it's interesting. I like how this movie is as a kid I probably wouldn't have known this because as a kid I'm just like, when do they bring Goro out. It's just because I mean that was an exciting thing. It's like it made you wonder like how are they going to do that, and we'll get to that a little bit later, folks. But the excitement of seeing this being brought to life on the big screen was I'd say I can't put into words, but that's the whole point of having a podcast. So I'd say I can't put into words how excited I was as a kid. But I was so excited for this movie, and I have a great memory of this movie. My dad took me and my sister, and it was just us. I can't remember exactly the circumstance. I think my mom was probably just, what were the circumstances? My mom didn't want to watch the movie. Those were the circumstances. So we went ahead, and it was just me, my sister, and my dad. And I was so unbelievably excited. It was one of the happiest times of my life, one of the greatest memories I have just with my dad and my sister, actually. As I retelling my sister, I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. You were there. I forgot now. But it was the main thing that I remember from that. And God bless my dad, rest in peace, because as much as I hate people talking during the movie. It's a pet peeve of mine. I was actually asking my wife about this the other day. It's like, what are some pet peeves that you have, just out of curiosity. And she had answered, and turned out it was just me altogether. But she's like, you're my pet peeve. But hers was people chewing with their mouth open, which 100% I agree with that. But mine is two things. Number one, people that take forever to merge when you know that the lane is merging and yet you just kind of cruise and wait for the lanes to guide you in front of the car anyways. I hate that. I can't stand it. I'm just like, just merge, just get in front of me. Clearly you're free. Anyways. The other thing, however, though, is people talking during movies. I mean, I understand if you're gonna like make every attempt possible, just kind of whisper something to the person next to you, totally fine. I get that. But if I can hear you in the form of a whisper over what's going on in the movie, shut up. Bottom line, just shut the hell up. I mean, realistically, it's not even that like, come on, man, we all paid money to watch this movie, but it's annoying. It's right up there for me with like just talking with someone talking with their mouth open. But anyways, the reason I'm bringing that up and I'm leading into this is because I was that one person talking during the movie for Mortal Kombat. Okay, I was a kid. I will say there is one rule, not one rule. There's one understanding thing that I have, and it's with kids if they're talking and maybe their parents are trying to, hey, keep it down, kiddo. We're all here to watch the movie type of thing. I get it. As a kid, you just get excited. I was that kid, and I was just so excited. I think I was talking to my dad, and I was just saying, "Oh, that's Katana." It's like, "Oh, that's Liu Kang. Oh, that's Johnny Cage." And I think when they were like first hinting at Goro coming out, I'm like, "Oh, that's Goro. That's definitely Goro." And I feel like the guy in front of me was just like, "Shut the hell up," And my dad, God bless him, he was just. I think he probably did tell me at one point or another, like, yeah, keep it down, or not keep it down, but like. Maybe he did, but I'm going to be honest, I don't remember him ever once telling me to be quiet. He just wanted me to have a great time at the movies, and he didn't want to be that guy to be like, it's like, all right, kiddo, you gotta shush. And I'm not saying one way or the other. Whether you tell your kid to be quiet during the movie or not, totally up to you as a parent. I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying in that moment, my dad, from what I remember, chose really not to. That said, I think I got the hint, and I kind of just like, oh, I'm getting too excited. I better silence myself here. So I caught myself eventually, but yeah, for a period of time, I was just like announcing everybody as, oh, that's Raiden. I just wanted to show that I knew who the characters were, like that was my time to shine.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What about you, Matthias? I don't imagine you saw this one in theaters. It probably would have happened maybe a little bit later, right?
Yeah, I was 2 years old.
Okay, then yeah. So no, definitely not. I was 43 when I saw this movie in theaters now.
Yeah. But no, I mean that's just kind of the power and like the sweetness of like memories and all that stuff when you're watching a movie that like the source material of or whatever, and that you have such a like love and interest for. It's just like you just get super excited and like, oh, I know this character, or I know like this environment or whatever. I mean, I think that was me honestly whenever I went to go see Resident Evil when that came out back in 2001, I think. But I was in the same way where it's like, oh, it's like this is supposed to be that, and like, oh, that's the hive and all that stuff, and like, oh, that's a T-virus. It's like it's okay, you're not alone. It's like I was also that kid who was like, I just got to talk about everything. So,
Yep.
but no, I get it 100%. It's that sort of like that wash of being a fanboy just gets just comes right over you. So I get that.
It does, and it did, but honestly, because of that, one of the best memories I have of going to the movies with my dad. The other one was he had won tickets to go see the movie Stir of Echoes. I think it was like the exclusive premiere. I think he got him at like Taco Cabana or something like that. Somehow he won them. I know it's a weird pairing, right? Say, welcome to Taco Cabana. Here's your tickets to Stir of Echoes, the story about a mystery murder to go along with your chalupa. I don't know, but yeah, we got the tickets, and my dad gave it to me, and it was like this, exclusive premiere. So that was my first time ever doing anything like that, and it's just another great memory that I have of going to the movies, and yet another reason why I love the movies. It was just destined to happen. As a kid, my mom would be like, "Hey, do you want to go to Schlitterbahn, or do you want to go to Fiesta Texas? Oh yeah, do you want to go to Schlitterbahn, Fiesta Texas, or the movies?" I'd be like, movies all day. It's like, you know what? I also I don't have to deal with crowds. Yeah, I choose the movies 100%. But all right, that's a nice little discussion. That's going to bring us to scene 2. And scene 2 opens up with Liu Kang returning to the Shaolin Temple, where his grandfather claims him as the chosen one to win Mortal Kombat. A non-believer, Liu Kang questions the legitimacy of the tournament. Raiden appears and quickly establishes himself as a force to be reckoned with as Liu Kang decides to move onward to his quest of revenge. All 3 fighters converge at the docks, where they board the ship to take them to the island where Mortal Kombat is held. It is on board the ship that they are introduced to Sub-Zero, Scorpion, and Shang Tsung himself. Powers are demonstrated, but in a bolt of lightning, Raiden appears to level the playing field and later informs Sonya, Johnny Cage, and Liu Kang of what they actually signed up for. There was a lot that happened. I mean, obviously, I mentioned we get Liu Kang going to the Shaolin Temple. We get that moment where all of the fighters meet up at the docks to board the ship. And then, of course, that takes us to our introduction, which was a badass introduction, I might add, of Scorpion and Sub-Zero to the story. But for me, I think going back to the Shaolin Temple, that's where, like I said, Raiden makes his first appearance and just has that calm, quiet demeanor. And as Liu Kang is basically telling his dad, because they immediately, mind your elders, as they say, because they knew better, they immediately start to bow to, the Thunder God. And Liu Kang, a non-believer, starts to grab his grandfather, and he's like, "Grandfather, get up! This is a, what does he say? I think he's a beggar or something." He's like, this is not your god of thunder and lightning." And the grandfather's just like real quick. He's like, "But please forgive this guy. His is my his American life. What can I say? Too much television. Like I thought that was pretty funny. Actually, it was one of those moments that it added levity to a situation without making it too obvious, as sometimes a comedic point that comes out in a film kind of just stands out as like, okay, clearly you just threw that in there to be funny. And it wasn't a trope, it just kind of worked. And I thought that part was funny, actually. I don't know, what did you think about that line?
No, I think it works really well. It sets up, Lord Raiden's character really, really well. It's like he's not just sort of like this power beyond belief, but also apparently just a very funny guy as well too. So it's that's I feel like his character definitely encapsulates like the tone of this movie like 100%. Because like there's times in this movie it's like yeah, it's playing to the horror and the goriness and the sort of brutality of like the Mortal Kombat world, but it's also not taking itself too seriously, and there's like moments of levity and all stuff that I think are also appropriate for it as well too. So I think overall it's like setting him up like that, or having his character kind of encapsulate those two different types of tones. I think it's super well done on their part.
Yeah, grandfather was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So then that brings us, like I said, to them. Liu Kang basically kind of getting put in his place by Raiden, because he goes on after he does eventually believe that he is the god of thunder, and he's just like, why? And this is one of the best lines too, because like Raiden, or Christopher Lambert, is just so quick with his response to Liu Kang's uh teen angst, to Liu Kang's angry anger, when he just basically says, "Okay, fine, so cool, you're the god of thunder and lightning," thinking he's going to get the best on him. He's like, "All right, fine then. If that's true, then why did you let Chan die? Why didn't you protect him?" And then Raiden just like real quick, without any hesitation, "Why didn't you?" And it was just like, you could tell Liu Kang was like, "All right, game, set, match, I'm done." He just, clearly he's not going to win this fight, and he's just like, "I've had enough of this. I'm going to go challenge and basically look for revenge, basically, and to battle the internal guilt that he has of believing that he left his brother to die at the hands of Shang Tsung when he maybe could have saved him." But yeah, that was it for that part. Any thoughts or anything like that as far as that scene?
No, I mean, yeah, that again just encapsulates Liu Kang's character. It's just somebody that is definitely haunted by that nightmare that he had, and it's an important sort of like aspect of his character, pretty much right up until like the end point of the film and all that stuff. So I think it's good to sort of like have that stated right at the get go, so that audiences kind of know like, okay, this is somebody who he might have the ability, but he still doesn't have it in his mind that he can, be the best or whatever in this tournament. So as we'll discuss more in further scenes.
No, for sure. And then I mentioned that we also do get that introduction of Scorpion and Sub-Zero being introduced by Shang Tsung, with that, just like you said, the like you said earlier, with the style of music that they decided to go the direction that they went with for this. You said that perfectly, because it was able to encapsulate that video game sound, but still not necessarily be just like music you would hear to a video game. It sounds kind of weird to say, but like it wasn't a soundtrack that it wasn't the soundtrack to Mortal Kombat the game. Let's put it that way. It was the soundtrack to Mortal Kombat the movie. I'm not gonna pull the soundtrack to the original Mortal Kombat game and just like listen to it on my way to work or anything like that. But not that I listen to this song on the way to work too. I mean, if I have to listen to this on the way to work, I mean, where am I working? Who am I getting to fight, basically? But it's just definitely something that you can listen to on your own. Maybe if you're going to work out or something, but I recommend cardio for that. But with the introduction of Sub-Zero and Scorpion coming out to this kind of same beat as well, it just worked awesome. It worked perfectly. Like especially when Shang Tsung just like introduces him, he's just like, "Scorpion and Sub-Zero, deadliest of enemies, but slaves under my power." And the way that line is delivered is just perfect, because I mean, you can't I will say this again because I know we weren't talking about the remake of not the remake. I'm sorry, the reboot of the original. I'm sorry, of the Mortal Kombat movies that have recently come out with. I don't recall the actor's name who plays Shang Tsung in these movies, but in my opinion, Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa is just the definitive Shang Tsung. He just,
Mhm.
man, like that's it. It's like, to me, it's like Heath Ledger with the Joker. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
saying the same level of like, that he just is the Joker, or Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. That's the way I feel about with his performance of Shang Tsung, and the way that he delivers this line is just the same. It solidifies why I think that about him, and not just this line, but other lines throughout the movie as well. But man, again, this goes back to me being a kid watching this movie and just getting unbelievably excited when they announced Sub Zero and Scorpion and they make their appearance. I don't know. I forgot what it felt like to be that excited. Maybe that's why they say enjoy being a kid while you're a kid. But I don't know. What about you, Matthias? What was your feedback on that?
No, I mean, with this setup and all stuff, like this movie does a really good job in really honoring the characters of the video games. Honestly, like a lot of people do kind of give it a little bit of crap for like, well, it's not as gory as it should be, or not as violent as it should be, but they really nail the art style and the dialogue that you feel would be appropriate for what you would imagine an adaptation of Mortal Kombat would be to film. So I think that's 100% like valid in terms of like what they do with that. And yeah, and then also having like, Tagawa as well too, who for the most part, like when it came to casting the role there, all the studio execs, everybody involved in this film were like, this is our guy. Like there's no one else that we have in mind for the role of Shang Tsung. It was like this is him. And he came to his audition in his costume, saying his lines and all that stuff as well too, while standing like in a chair, just to kind of give him that presence of like being a formidable villain. And they,
Mhm.
again, just nobody could beat him in regards to that. They're like, this is our guy. He is making our film. And yeah, he definitely he sells this film to me. Honestly, his performance in this.
It does, and he has this way of carrying himself of being arrogant and cocky, but also has the skill level to back it up.
Yeah,
I,
totally.
f- like you get this impression if you ever meet him for the first time, this character, and you were just like, oh, so like you have like special abilities. He'd be like, yeah, yeah, I got special abilities. Like I feel like that's the way he would address something like that or something, or I don't know, but definitely somebody who you can tell just exudes confidence, but definitely can well confident arrogance, I guess, but can definitely back it up. But that's going to bring us to scene 3. The fighters arrive to the island, and a feast is presented to them, along with a demonstration of, how should I put this? A taste of things to come. After witnessing a fighter freeze and explode at dinner, the 3 fighters go in pursuit of questioning Shang Tsung for answers. Shortly after their pursuit, they come across Kano and Goro discussing the sorcerer's abilities. Upon leaving the scene, they alert Shang Tsung to their presence and guards are dispatched after them. It's here that we get our first look at the fighting abilities and a hype that begins to build with that epic, epic song. And no, I'm not talking about the dance number from Blade, that techno hit from Blade 1998. This movie came out 3 years before that. Uh, I'm not even going to attempt to sing it or reinterpret it. Most of you all know exactly what I'm talking about and probably heard the scream of Mortal Kombat before, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to try to play it. What the hell? Here I go. No, yeah, that music hits and we get the fight scene that is just, I mean, it builds the hype for sure. It is the first time that you see them really, I believe, use their fighting skill to defend. Because I think prior to that, all you really saw was Johnny Cage in a movie shoot, and Sonya, yeah, she fought, but really not much. And then Liu Kang just kind of got his ass kicked by Raiden, realistically.
Yeah.
So this is the first part where you see all 3 of them just come out on top, and I mean, I was definitely there for it. It was an exciting moment as well. What was your takeaway from that?
Yeah, I mean, it's it sets it up fantastically, honestly, with Techno Syndrome playing there in the background of the fighting, and you also gotta imagine too. A lot of like what is the strength of this movie has to do with the choreography and the stunt coordination done by Pat E. Johnson, who did Enter the Dragon and The Karate Kid and
Oh,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles previously to this film. So a lot of like his direction and a lot of like his prior experience helped to sort of really set not just like the pacing, but also just kind of like the overall viewpoint of just how these fight scenes are taken care of, in the rest of the scenes in the film. But also, a lot of people forget, but Robin Shu, who is Liu Kang in the film, was also a specialist in martial arts. Prior to
mhm.
him in this movie, he was doing a lot of action films in Hong Kong that focused on, martial arts, of course. So he
Wow.
pretty much also came into this role not just as your main lead for the most part, but also as just the second to Patty Johnson, who definitely leaned on him for not just creating the choreography and the sort of like the techniques like within the standard fights, but also helped in creating the extended fight scenes that we'll talk about later in the rest of the film, where some fights that you think, oh, we're just like, as is from when you watch it in the movie, no, we're actually a lot shorter. So it was Robin Shu who came in there and said, yeah, these are a little too short. We gotta extend these fights because we're a fighting movie. And if
Yeah.
you're only making a fight scene that's, about a minute long, you're losing your audience there. So but yeah, whenever we talk about other fights in the film, I'll definitely like circle back on that there. But yeah, I mean, it's a good first fight to kind of get you a sense of like the combat in this Mortal Kombat movie.
Nope, absolutely. Let's see. I think that's about it really. I mean, we get that conversation between Kano and Goro. Well, actually, you know what? Yeah, I should mention this because that is the first look that we finally do get to see Goro. I had been wondering how they were going to bring this character to life because in 1995, I mean, prior to that, what we really had in terms of advancements of CGI and special effects and everything like that was really Terminator Part 2,
Mhm.
the liquid metal type of look, which was amazing for 1992, really. And it kind of still holds up, as far as it doesn't take you out of the film if you go back and rewatch that movie. But yeah, bringing Goro to life was a challenge that I was very, very curious to see how they were going to pull that off. And it turns out that it took actually 13 puppeteers to work to bring Goro to the screen and make that work. I don't have any behind the scenes footage. I would love to see what that looked like in terms of
Mhm.
13 puppeteers just, moving and everything because you had I think like I forget exactly what the layout was, but I think you had one that was controlling the head. You had obviously four arms. You've got the legs, I think the torso, all of that. So all of that coming together, I don't even know how that looks,
Yeah.
honestly. It's pretty crazy. I would assume. I mean, honestly, I can't even guess realistically, but yeah, 13 puppeteers making that one work. Did you come across anything like that as far as
No, I mean, yeah, with that in particular, it's like it's such an advanced practical effect, really, but it costs a lot of money. It costs upwards of like $1 million to make first off. It
yes.
costs a lot of manpower, obviously, to actually puppeteer Goro. And then apparently it was also really hard to do shooting in it because there was still an actor in the suit that essentially was doing the movements and all that stuff, but they could only do like 2 minute segments because the suit got so hot and they basically had to feed somebody like water and cool it down with fans on the inside, or if not, that person's gonna like, pass out from heat exhaustion. So
Yeah.
it's it's showing that like even in the 90s that sort of like CGI was kind of getting a little bit more advanced and also I guess accessible within Hollywood, that practical effects were still like a thing that Hollywood wanted to focus on, but the cost and the sort of advancements and like the time for all those pieces too to kind of like come into concert with each other was still difficult. And Goro was one of those testaments of like, yeah, this looks great and it shows a lot of love for that the talent behind that sort of thing. But damn, it's like it's it caused a lot of issues with production. Like outside of
Yeah,
anybody who was involved in it, it's like that was the most annoying thing that the crew had to deal with.
I'd bet. And can you imagine too? I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the scene later on down the line when he fights Johnny Cage and Johnny Cage lures him out to the ledge. Johnny Cage has to climb up like the side of a mountain type of deal. I don't know. They're in kind of like a cave or a cave like environment where they're having this battle. And after he kind of gets the best of Goro and baits him to follow him, Johnny Cage has to climb up, and then the next shot is instantly you just see Goro's hand, like reach up, and then that's established that he did the climb and all that stuff. But I was just thinking to myself, can you imagine if like the director just went up to all the puppeteers and was like, "All right, for this next scene, I want you guys to work your magic and have him climb the have him climb the side of the cliff, and we want to get it all on screen from a wide shot. I don't want to hide anything in this film. Everything, nothing, no expense, sparing no expense." That alone would have cost probably another $1 million just to get that to happen. I don't
Yeah.
even know how you would do that. But yeah, no. So, I mean, definitely impressive, but it also gives you an idea of how much that really costs, because if the budget for this was 20 million and the Goro design alone and all of that put together was $1 million, I mean, geez, that really ate into their budget for this character. So they really had to believe in that to bring it to screen. But all right. Scene 4 opens up with Liu Kang fighting the first battle of the tournament. He breaks the ribs of his opponent, and Shang Tsung takes the fighter's soul soon after. Sonya fights the second match, and to her surprise, is presented with a gift from the sorcerer in the form of Kano as her opponent. She breaks his neck, wins the match, and we are soon taken to Johnny Cage's first battle versus Scorpion. He's transported to what looks like a hell dimension, but manages to defeat his opponent, slicing his skull and leaving a headshot in classic Johnny Cage fashion. Liu Kang, now facing his second opponent, Katana, is given advice on how to win his next match. Use the element, which brings life. Recalling this in his battle with Sub-Zero, Liu Kang manages to stab him with an icicle made of, you guessed it, Gatorade. No, I'm kidding. Made of water, actually. A lot happens here. And rewatching this movie and actually doing a review on it really gets you to clearly pay more attention to certain things. But as I just mentioned right there, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 battles basically within all of this. You had Liu Kang's first match, you had Sonya's first match, you had Johnny Cage's first match, you had Liu Kang's second match, and I guess Liu Kang's third match technically. Man, they really gave him the short end of the stick on that one. Jeez. And I always thought it was interesting too, because I mean, I guess you could say that Shang Tsung had the intention of Kitana, I guess, beating Liu Kang. But after he clearly stated earlier in the film to Reptile, which is a detail that we missed here, he just says, wait, no, watch her carefully, keep her away from the humans. Oh, wait, no. Who does he tell them to? He's talking to Goro. Never mind. He tells Goro when he's having that conversation with him, saying that Princess Kitana is over 10,000 years old. She cannot be trusted with humans, especially Liu Kang. All right, our next match, Kitana, I'm going to go ahead and put you versus Liu Kang, and y'all are going to be together. And then and she's going to give you some sort of advice on how to win your next match, which, for all we know, without that advice, probably would have killed you. I don't know. Maybe he would have figured it out. I don't know. What do you think? Was this kind of like, well, if you really want them not to intermingle, wouldn't you do your best to just keep them apart?
So I think a lot of the awkwardness that comes from like that, because I saw that too, and I was like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. But apparently, in the first draft of like the script, there was supposed to be a more involved story between Kitana and Liu Kang. Apparently, more like a sort of like a romance there, which didn't come into fruition really, because obviously the studio was like, okay, well, we can't have another plot point here. It's like we got to have it focused on the important stuff, which is the fights and all that stuff. So that was cut out eventually there. So a lot of the interactions you see between them, in the main film, kind of makes more sense if you think about it. It's sort of like there's kind of like a romance angle there, but when you take that away, it creates a little bit of awkwardness there, because it's like it's not fully fleshed out for the most part. But at one point in the script, it did exist. So I think that's one thing that kind of is is a little bit of an issue with the film. It's just there's some scenes that don't really make any sense, but that's because stuff had to be cut out and stuff had to be added. So there's a lot of that in the sort of midpoint of this movie where
Mm.
some things don't really match up in terms of like the environments that the characters are in, or that some fights kind of cut away a little differently. It's one of those things. It's like it has to go back to sort of the reshoots and the cuts that they did later on in the film after the first test screenings.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. I buy that. I buy that. But let's see. What do we got going on here? Sonya fights her second match against Kano. Um, Definitely has those lines. Kano, though he had a small role, really delivered on his lines, especially when she kind of says that line with the knife. When he says that he comes out and he brings out a big old knife, saying like, "Oh, this little baby brings back memories now, doesn't it?" He knows exactly what buttons to push,
Mm.
and it really adds to the fact of people going into this movie kind of knowing the backstory in the video game, just knowing that there is that tension, that quest for vengeance type of thing between Sonya and Kano. And this movie definitely delivered on that, because he comes out and she just says like, "What, did you use it to knife your mother in the back?" And he's like, "No, but it was something about for your partner though, when I slit him like ear to ear." And the way that he just delivers that line and then immediately goes after the attack after that, it's just ruthless, but also arrogance. And he just, like I said, knew exactly what buttons to push to piss her off. And
Mm.
he paid for it though. She did. She got her vengeance. Did that awesome move that that most of the people that played the video game know that move. I think if I remember correctly, for Super Nintendo, you had to hold like LR, B, and A or something like that. And she did that leg stand or that handstand, and then just wrapped around the neck of the opponent. And it was pretty cool to see that happen. A lot of people probably forget that going back now, because it's like part one Mortal Kombat was such a long time ago. But yeah, that was a key move from the video game that was really cool to see adapted on the big screen. And breaks his neck immediately after he says, "Oh, come on, give me a break." She's like, "Okay." And that's the
Yeah.
end of that. Thoughts on that fight scene?
I love that fight scene, honestly, there. And I love how they set up Kano to be like such a real bastard, honestly, of a character.
Yeah.
And with just his dialogue and his lines there, and just how he his fighting style really encapsulates that whole idea. But yeah, and also, Bridget Wilson, definitely does a great job with Sonya Blade as well too. It really sells that sense that she is a woman that is very much trying to avenge her partner and is driven by that whole sense of justice there. Which in an alternate reality, it would not have been her. That would have been Sonya Blade. You want to guess who was the original actress cast in that?
I'm gonna guess Pamela Anderson. I don't know
Are,
why.
are you being serious?
I don't know, because it's 1995. That's a pretty big actress back then. I mean, she did
I'll
what?
give you a hint. It was an actress that worked with Jim Carrey in the 90s.
Oh wow, that would have been big. So you're telling me Reba? I don't know. I couldn't think of anything. Cameron Diaz, really?
Yeah, was the first choice, and she actually was training for the role until she broke her wrist. And Bridget Wilson actually did an audition, but they passed on her. So whenever Cameron Diaz broke her wrist and all that stuff, they then call Bridget Wilson again. She was actually finishing up on Billy Madison
Mm.
whenever she got the call, and it was such a quick turnaround for her because pretty much like whenever she finished wrapping up with Billy Madison, she had to get on a plane to start doing scenes in Thailand. And she was actually like one of the last people to actually do training pretty much on the spot for the film.
Wow.
So a lot of like all the techniques, all the fighting styles, all that stuff, she pretty much had to learn during production for the most part. So yeah, because of course you already had, Robin, she was already an experienced martial artist. So was Lyndon Ashby as well too. So she was the only one who didn't have sort of, I guess, like formal training, so to speak.
Ah, Veronica Vaughn herself for Billy
Veronica
Madison.
Vaughn. Kind of like
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I could have seen that would have been an interesting choice for Cameron Diaz. I wonder how this character would have changed a little bit more to fit her signature, so to speak. All right. Well, I guess in an alternate world, we'll never know in this one. But all right, scene 5 presents Goro for the first time in the tournament fighting, defeating Art Lean pretty easily and shaking the confidence of the fighters. Raiden forces them to confront their vulnerabilities, causing Johnny Cage to decide to make a deal with Shang Tsung to challenge Goro. Believing in himself, he does the splits, knocks Goro in the balls, and forces him to follow him to the edge of a cliff where he roundhouse kicks him off and watches Goro fall to his death. And I should clarify something there. I said believing in himself, he does the splits. You don't have to believe in yourself to do the splits, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to try it, I don't recommend it, but that's entirely up to you. But yeah, it's pretty nuts. And I thought this was another it's pretty nuts.
Pretty nuts.
No pun intended. More Goro. It's it's another adaptation that they did from the video game to the movie that I really appreciated. That is one of Johnny Cage's signature moves, doing the splits and then, hitting somebody in the nuts, basically. So to see that happen in here was pretty cool too. And this brings me back to my other original thing where I said where he gets Goro's attention and causes him to chase him, outside. And I was just thinking, how would that have looked like, with puppeteers controlling Goro, trying to get him to climb? I mean, that literally would have been a mountain to climb. I don't know how they would have done it. But obviously they weren't going to go that route, and they just do the magic of editing, made it believable. How do you feel about that fight? Do you feel like it was satisfying, or do you feel like, I don't know, maybe would you like to see that fight revisited with today's special effects and maybe see a different outcome?
I mean, with that one, I mean, technically it is the first flawless victory in the movie because,
That's true.
Johnny doesn't get hit at all. So it is pretty much like a flawless victory in her part, even though it
Good
was
point.
a low blow and shouldn't really count. But, uh, I don't know. I think that one is definitely a case of we can't do a traditional fight scene because of just the practical effect of Goro. I think that's
True.
100%. I feel 100% the reason why there's not a more involved fight with this in that scene. So I do feel like, yeah, nowadays, of course, you can probably do that. You can make it more involved. You can have an actual dedicated fight there. But yeah, I feel that one, it just has to do with the time and stuff like that and limitations of that. But yeah, I mean, overall, I like it just because it's a set. It's a nice little Easter egg, of course, and even before a little bit after that in that scene too, it was also my favorite line from Johnny Cage. It's like those a pair of $500
Yep.
sunglasses, asshole, which was ad libbed actually by Lyndon Ashby, which that's
Nice.
another thing too, that a lot of like the dialogue and the key sort of like quips in this movie was just pretty much Paul W.S. Anderson just said, "Hey, just whatever comes to mind, say it. It's gonna work somehow with like the tone of the movie." So
Nice.
a lot of stuff like that was just just out of the minds of the actors. So I think that adds a lot to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's awesome. I didn't know that. That was a great line. And he did a great job as Johnny Cage, especially in the 90s. I mean, I don't know. I'm curious just thinking about it because he did do a great job. And then part 2, though, they of course recasted him. We're not going to jump too much into that Annihilation because that movie was,
Mm-hmm.
oh well, what can I say? Not great. But they recasted him to play with another actor to play Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade. While we're at it, both of them are actually recasted. Who would you have casted? Who could you have pictured casted as Johnny Cage for this movie if this actor had not taken the role? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I can tell you one thing is that there was somebody in mind that they had that is honestly the movie Mortal Kombat or just Mortal Kombat as a franchise and all that stuff wouldn't have existed for this one actor. And that actor is Jean-Claude Van Damme,
For sure.
which he couldn't appear in this one because he was actually busy with Street Fighter. And which it did came out the previous year, of
Yes.
course, but whenever they were in talks of like doing production stuff like that, it was one of those things where they just couldn't get scheduling together,
Mm.
and Lyndon Ashby was kind of, I guess, the second choice for the most part when it came to that there. So that's one little aspect of like, what if it was a case of Jean-Claude Van Damme in Mortal Kombat and let's say somebody like Lyndon Ashby in Street Fighter. It's like how would that have changed the fates of the films? Which who knows? We're not there, unfortunately. But that's one thing that's always brought up in these conversations. Like Jean-Claude Van Damme was pretty much really the sort of template for Johnny Cage in a lot of ways for Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I believe if I'm not mistaken, the video games they had based pretty much that character off of Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah,
And
Frank from Bloodsport.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I don't know how that would have changed this movie, and I don't think it would have done it for the better because I think that it would have been all about Johnny Cage. And I don't
Yeah.
think that like I don't imagine Jean-Claude Van Damme, especially peak Jean-Claude Van Damme, being like, I'm not gonna play second fiddle to, what's this guy's name, or anything like that. Like the
Mhm.
stories, we're rewriting the story. It's not gonna center around Liu Kang. It's gonna center around Johnny Cage. Which is kind of funny because fast forward to now, and that's in a sense like what ended up kind of happening.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, that's yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme would be somebody, but I don't know. I hard pressed to really even think about actors during that time frame that could fit that role because like actors during
Jasper
that
Van
time,
Dien?
that is a good one. Yeah, no, let's go with that. That's a better one than I'm gonna be able to come up with off the top of my head. Because I was over here like I was like the only actors I could think as peak during that time would be like Sean Connery and Sylvester Stallone or Bruce Willis or something. Maybe Bruce Willis. I don't know.
I could see Bruce Willis, honestly.
Potentially could have played that role, but I mean I can't imagine like Sean Connery just coming out. I was gonna try to do my best Sean Connery
Well, he was
impression.
actually supposed to be Lord Raiden. Actually, they approached him, but
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
and he was like,
Yes.
"Yeah, I don't want to."
Yeah, and I don't know what that would have sounded like as well, like I can't think of it. I was trying to think of a line that like you would say or something like, but in any case, trust me, folks, I'm sparing you the horrible,
I
horrible
don't think
impression of it.
so.
Yeah, like losers always whine about their best, or something like that.
Yeah,
Just talking to Luke Kang or something, and Luke Kang's gonna be like, "What? I'm not whining. I'm just saying my brother died. Like I want to avenge him." He's like, "Yeah." But anyways, yeah, I could, but I understand that why too, because I think if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Sean Connery cast in also in Highlander,
yeah. So he
right?
worked really closely. He was co-star to, or well, Christopher Lambert was his co-star in Highlander.
Yeah, that's right. Which I'm curious to see how that movie's going to come out. I was never a big Highlander fan though, so to be honest with you, I'm not really like that curious. But at the end of the day, it'll be a great movie because I think Henry Cavill comes out in that or something. But
Hmm.
that's a different story for the other segment of our show. Um, yeah. So Casper Van Dien being recasted as Johnny Cage, I think that would be a solid pick for that time frame. But all right, that is going to bring us to our next scene, scene 6. That opens up with Shang Tsung exercising his right to challenge any fighter for the final battle, abducting Sonya Blade and retreating to Outworld. Liu Kang and Johnny Cage pursue him, and one last awesome epic battle happens before the final match takes place as Reptile fights Liu Kang. Liu Kang wins, and Katana later reveals herself present among them to guide them the rest of the way in Outworld. That's kind of funny too, because Raiden did mention, in Outworld, if you look hard enough, you'll find another guide. And this was immediately after Johnny Cage was like, "Hey, you're gonna come with us," and he says that line. And then I feel like it'd be funny if like he just says it again. It's like, "So you're sure you're not gonna come with us?" In Outworld, if you look hard enough, you will find another guide to take you the rest of the way. In other words, no, I will not be joining you. This is all y'all. I'm not. I don't want any part of this. But I just always thought that would be funny if he actually had said that. But the other thing with this scene too was I know that they're obviously going after Shang Tsung because he's doing the bad thing. He's taking Sonya and everything like that. But technically speaking, they made that deal. He had the
Hmm.
right to challenge anyone. He's working within his means. Now, he didn't go about it in the right way. And to be honest with you, probably could have just not abducted her and been like, no, we agreed to this. This is it. I'm sorry. Like, done is done. Like, I didn't even actually do anything wrong here in this case. This was the deal that was made with Johnny Cage. I'm literally just, I'm the good guy here. I'm just fighting. I'm literally playing by the rules here, if that's the case. And of course, he does it in a shady way and abducts her and then takes her to Outworld and all that stuff. And then I will give it to her, Bridget Wilson, for this, because a lot of people take for granted the acting ability of some of these actors and actresses, because the scream that she gives, like when she's just saying, even like, let me go, and everything like that, it just, like, I don't know, like, it's just well done. Like, I guess well done. I can't imagine if I was in that same role, like, all right, in this scene, you're getting abducted and we want you to just scream, let me go, and make it believable. It would sound horrible,
Uh-huh.
It would not sound good as an actor in any way whatsoever in that light. Maybe I could do something else, like, we want you to host a podcast. Oh, okay, cool. I can do that. I think I had a couple of years practice of doing that. But, like, I always think it's amazing whenever I see, like, especially like with actresses, when they see a scene in a horror movie comes out and they have to like scream in horror. Like, how do you do that and make it sound legit? And just like, or something. Like, it's just, I don't know. The point I'm trying to make is that her in this scene just did amazing. I mean, she just it clearly shows why she's an experienced actress. But I don't know. What's your takeaway on that? Am I reading too much into this, or are you kind of like, no, you're right. I mean, doing a scream is a difficult thing to do and to make it sound believable.
No, I think you're touching on something there, because I mean, there's a couple of other, I think there's even like the scream she had, I think it happens during the art fight as well too. Like, I forgot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like even that one, it's just like it's coming from somewhere deep inside, and it's such a visceral scream. I'm like, damn, it's like,
yes,
you're a scream queen. It's like I mean, she would go on later on to be in I Know What You Did Last Summer, I think 2 years after or whatever. So she was actually in that movie.
And actually also, now
House
that you
on Haunted
mention
Hill.
it, yeah, House on Haunted Hill. That was the other one.
Yeah. I watch movies.
Well, then why did you name it in the first place? No, I'm just kidding. I agree. She just had that visceral, that I think you said it perfectly there. That visceral scream that it's just I'm trying to think of a movie that has somebody trying to do the same thing that you're just like, I don't believe that you're scared, or I don't believe that there's terror here. How much do I have to suspend my disbelief? And in her, no, it's like, it's crazy, because it's like, it's a 1995 movie based on a video game, and she like took it to this Academy Award winning level. I don't know. That's all I'm going to say about that. I've kind of gone a little bit too long talking about this, but I just like to take a moment to praise actors and actresses when they do an amazing job. And that was it. She took that scene to the next level. And then we have Liu Kang, who comes out, and I think personally the best fight scene of the entire movie. And it with Reptile coming out, especially just the same thing as it was when they introduced Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and you kind of get that buildup of music, and they introduce it when Liu Kang takes Reptile, who was in the form of a very dated CGI effect nowadays, of course. Still, for the sake of the movie, it works. Grabs him, throws him into some, I guess, ancient fighter who had been, I guess, crucified there or something, and gets wrapped up, and all of a sudden you see this person for no reason whatsoever. I mean, they never say, is this like a haunted thing? It just happens, you see him take the form of Reptile, and then you hear the voice that from the video game when you select Reptile, say the name exactly like they say it in the game, which adds even more to the effect. And you hear that music just build up, and Liu Kang just realized like he's in for a battle, because the look on his face is like, oh shit, what have I done? And one of the greatest, if not the best battle fight of this movie happens, even better than the one of him versus Shang Tsung, in my opinion. What was your opinion on that fight?
No, I mean, this is one of those examples of the fights that were actually extended after like the initial test screenings and all that. Like, it was supposed to be where you get that whole scene of Kang just finding Reptile, just pulling him out from like, I guess, like the wall or whatever, and then throwing him into the into like that dead like carcass or whatever, and then coming to life and all that stuff. And it was supposed to be much shorter. It was supposed to be pretty much like maybe less than a minute long. But this was one of those where it's like, nah, it's like we got to make this a little bit longer. We got to make this more involved because it's like this is supposed to be a showcase of Liu Kang's like talents and all that stuff. And previously, really in the film, you don't even see like a lot of like his signature moves like from like the games. It's like it's when he's here in Outworld that you really see like his power level, and you kind of see like a lot of those techniques kind of show up. And it's a
Mhm.
very much like a real like love letter to the fans. Are like, okay, yeah, this is like the Liu Kang that I know. So I think that's what makes this fight like so important, I think, to the film and just so interesting to watch. It's because there's a lot of those established techniques there. There's a lot of line work as well too, or wire work with a lot of like scenes as well too, which was introduced after the fact as well too, because it was just supposed to be kind of like a regular master master wide shot fight scene, which Paul W.S. Anderson didn't have any actual uh, like he didn't have a reputation for filming fight scenes, so a lot of this was kind of helped out uh, by Pat kind of stepping in and being like, okay, this is how you shoot scenes, as well as Robin coming in and being like, yeah, in Hong Kong we shoot these type of fight scenes, and this is how you should be placing the camera and da 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 da. So it's one of those scenes that's really important because it kind of showcases more of like the other cast members coming in and really helping and kind of like getting the pacing of that all set. So I think yeah, it's like one of the best ones in the movie.
That's good too that he was willing to take a page like that and kind of sit back, because you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but if you surround yourself with the smartest people, you're probably going to make a more informed decision, and that just kind of speaks to the humility, I guess, of a director like that, willing to step back and
Hmm.
hear other people out with their ideas as well. So yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, one of the best fight scenes. You see that bicycle kick happen. That's another epic moment that you see that kind of puts the defining finish on Reptile. Um, but yeah, no, great scene. I enjoyed it. Great song as well. I mean, it just went perfectly with the scene. So, I mean, it was just cool to see Reptile come to life as well, which kind of made sense with the game too, because Reptile in the original Mortal Kombat game was a secret character that would come out after you. I think there was a certain thing you had to do to win the game in a certain level. I think it was in the pit level. You had
Yeah,
to score a flawless victory both times or something, and then
yeah, and not block.
Reptile. Yeah, and not blah. Yeah. Good catch, good catch. And then yeah, you got to fight Reptile. Of course, that was cool, but you also had, and at that point, you also wanted to be able to select Reptile, which happened in part two. So they probably were just testing that character, and sure enough, they were right because he became a playable character. Scene 7. All right, that is going to take us to the tower, where the final battle will begin as Liu Kang challenges Shang Tsung. He accepts, and the fight for the fate of the world begins. Liu Kang faces his enemy, faces himself, and faces his greatest fear, that he is responsible for Chan's death. Overcoming his doubt, he regains his confidence and proceeds to fireball Shang Tsung off the ledge and into the pit. Upon this display, the souls of those captured by the sorcerer are released, and Chan's soul is revealed to be at peace. Lu and the others head to the Shaolin Temple to celebrate, but the celebration is cut short as Shao Kahn reveals himself and threatens to come for the souls of Liu Kang and the others, to which Raiden replies, sure, no. To which Raiden replies, I don't think so. And that is the end of the movie. Scene 7 ends it. Uh a lot a lot to digest in that little synopsis there. I mentioned, of course, Liu Kang challenges Shang Tsung after he's saying, Shang Tsung tries to kind of evade the challenge by saying, all right, fine then, Johnny Cage, I challenge you. And then Liu Kang's like, no, man, how are you not getting this? Like, it's me. It's going to be me. It's always been me. You're going to fight me. Here we go. Let's do this. And that was an epic moment as well, because then that music hits, like dun, 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 dun. And, they start doing their fighting forms and everything, getting ready for battle. And it was awesome because it was like, oh, here we go. I wanted it to go a little bit longer for that one-on-one before anything else started happening, but they started wrapping that up. So as soon as he gets a good punch on Shang Tsung, then he uses his powers to summon the fighters of other fighters from past history of souls that he was able to take. And then you get a good fight too, but I really wanted it to be a fight between Shang Tsung and him, which you kind of get towards the end as well. After he kind of Liu Kang kind of gets his ass kicked there for a minute, uh, and then Shang Tsung comes along and just says, like, mocks him in that classic arrogant style. He's like, the chosen one, and then just bam, like throws his head against the concrete. And then of course it moves to Liu Kang believing in himself, doing the splits and kick him in the balls. No, no, he didn't do that. But believing in himself, and saying that that he knows that he's not responsible for Chan's death, that every fighter chooses their own path, and he finally accepted that, and he let go of the guilt, because at that point Shang Tsung had transformed into Chan to kind of get him to confront and feel bad all over again, which I know a lot of people would feel like, well, I mean, come on, it's clearly not him. Like, why does he have to have this moment of of reflection and doubt and all that? But if you think about it, I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I mean, Shang Tsung has the ability to summon the souls of those he's taken, and clearly he took Chan's soul. So if I'm Liu Kang, I might be wondering to myself, especially if I know his power abilities, is this really Chan coming out? Like, to most of us, like, that play the video game or anything like that, you're just thinking in terms of, oh, he has the ability to shapeshift, like Mystique or something, or morph or whatever. And it's like, it's just, it's that person just transforming into the other person. But in this case, it's different with Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung has those souls to be able to call on. So I can see where Liu Kang would be like, have that moment of self-doubt and be like, wait, is this Chan? And you really have to dig down, because you're not just seeing the person, but you're also probably under the impression that, no, this really might be him. Is it him? Is it not him? Is this how he really feels? Like, he's saying, especially when he says that scene too, and it sets up that epic moment of Chan, because Chan really did Chan was a small part, but that actor delivered on those lines, because it kind of reminds me of Wayne's World, where Wayne's World Part 2, I think, quick short little detour, where he goes to the gas station and he says, I need to get to this street. I need the address. How do I get there? And the gas station attendant comes and he's like, oh, yes, Rainy Street or something like that. He goes like, I once knew a girl there. And then like Mike Myers just stops it. And he's like, I mean, I know it's a small part, guys, but I think we can do better than this. And they take him out and bring somebody else in, and the scene continues and it's much better. I kind of felt like that wasn't the case with this scene. Like, it was a small part, but Chan delivered, like, especially with the pit starting to come up, because most of us that know the video game know that as well, that the level, the spikes and everything. And they're looking down, and as that self-doubt is filling Liu Kang, Chan just says, like, he says that line that really just like hits, when he's like, do you remember when our parents died and you said that you would always take care of me? I mean, that just cuts straight to the core, because it's like, cut out all the BS, and it's like, now it's my turn to take care of you. And the spikes continue to come up, and that tension is building, and that's when Liu Kang has to just come up with it. And he's like, no, man, like, it hits him. Chan chose his own destiny. He chose his path. He died because he died on his terms, I guess, so to speak. It's not my fault. And then he proceeds, Shang Tsung realizes that he lost the hold and, transforms back. But then Liu Kang, basically just gets the best of him and encourages Shang Tsung to release those souls and just let him go, because he's lost. It's over. And then he just says, I pity you, sorcerer. And I'm bringing that line up because I take this line, and I always say this every now and again too, when somebody tells me like, oh man, I'm sorry, or something like that. I always say the line, not always, but sometimes, save your pity for the weak. I just love that line. That's definitely a line that I will quote every now and again. But yeah, so like I said, he says that line, save your pity for the weak. And then it leads to Liu Kang just getting the best of him, finishes it with that epic moment of just, hit after hit. And you get that fireball that most people know about Liu Kang as well, and launches Shang Tsung off and lands in the pit and dies. Fatality, I guess, is what you see for the most part. But that pretty much ends it. Well, I guess no. Like I said, they go to celebrate, and then you get Shao Kahn coming out, and then like I said, Raiden just says, "I don't think so," when Shao Kahn threatens to go after their souls. It's a lot to digest there, though. I know I just said a lot as a synopsis or summary recap of those last scenes. What are your thoughts on that, Matthias?
No, I think what makes this fight important is like it's not about like showcasing that that Shang Tsung is like a more like a stronger fighter than Liu Kang or anything like that. Like it's not that. It's also about like the type of mind games and the type of sort of like almost seductiveness that he has when it comes to that sort of sense of like trying to play into people's emotions, and he understands like specifically with Liu Kang that, the loss of his brother Chan is something that weighs heavily on him, and he uses that against him in a way to where he thinks he can probably like shift his allegiance to his side and all that stuff there. But of course, this being a movie and this being something to where you want to see that character kind of really evolve from like his trauma, you have it to where then he understands like, no, it's like what I need to do is I need to let go, and I need to realize that as much as like my brother was in control of his destiny, I am also in control of mine. And that's like one of the greater aspects of the fight. It's like it's just that sort of evolution of sort of taking your trauma and then developing into a strength. And that's kind of like how I read that fight usually as well there too.
True.
And it isn't like the most advanced type of fight. There's not like a lot of like, oh, CGI stuff happening in the background or crazy in that sort of way. But I think it, like with most of the fights in this film, it's like it's just very well done in terms of choreography, the cuts that it has in there, as well as like the close-ups and the different camera techniques. It's like that's what really sells, just all the fights here. But this one is just like that culmination of all those things that you just saw. So I
For
think
sure.
that's like where the strength is, certainly with that. And then with the end as well too, it's just you get that sense of like, oh yeah, there's more to kind of see when it comes to this world, especially with seeing Shao Kahn in the sky and stuff like that, and trying to challenge the fighters and stuff like that. It ends in a really cool way that unfortunately doesn't really pay off in the sequel.
Yeah. Biggest disappointment ever. I was just like, they ended it with as much hype as it started with for the first one. So job well done to this movie. Part one was just a flawless victory, to be honest with you. Part one I thought was just a great movie. It just it was like a movie that took itself serious but not too serious,
Mm-hmm.
but also serious enough to not just be a popcorn flick. Like I
True.
feel like the new ones, they're great. I enjoy them. They're great films. But the way that part one, Mortal Kombat, I'm talking about I think 2021 or 2023, I forget exactly when it came out. The way that that movie started off was leading me to believe that this was a movie that was heading in a different direction that I was 100% for. It had a little bit more, it had more seriousness to it, especially with the story of the origin story of Scorpion and seeing what had happened with him, losing his family. It really took it like it was going to go a different route. And then it went a different route altogether for the tone of the movie, which still made it a fun movie. But I really want to see what that first 10, 15 minutes of it would have
Mm-hmm.
taken. And with this movie, it doesn't have that same effect as the first 10 or 15 minutes of the 2021 version or 2023 version. But it definitely isn't just a movie that is just like, oh, we're here to have a good time, just like have fun with the gore and that's it, to a certain extent. This one had a little bit more heart to me than the new ones do, but I still enjoy the new ones, so I'm not saying they're bad. It's kind of like, I don't know, in a way, like Man of Steel versus the new Superman. I
Yeah.
prefer Man of Steel 100%. I so far I haven't seen anything that, well, no, okay, I'm not gonna say anything, but just regarding the movies, I just like the tone and everything that the first Man of Steel did versus Superman. If I were to put them, right next to each other, that doesn't mean that Superman is a bad movie. It's just a different type of movie, and that's kind of the way I feel with these Mortal Kombat's. I still prefer the original 1995 version, but that's also thanks in large part to the cast. primarily uh, Hiroyuki Tagawa and Christopher Lambert. So, I mean, of course, the other actors and actresses as well. Made actually, yeah, all of them. Honestly, Liu Kang, Robin Shao, and Robin Shao or Shu? Is it Shu?
I think it's Shu. Yeah.
Okay, Robin Shu, um, and Bridget Wilson, and I am forgetting his name to play Johnny Cage, but him as well. They all just did a great job of elevating this movie from just, especially at the height of, this was, in my opinion, like the fourth film that was a video game adapted to a movie, and the first, all of them really didn't do that great, so it took a lot of confidence to be able to do this, because I think I had the numbers somewhere. So Mario Brothers did 21 million, Double Dragon did 2.3 million, and Street Fighter was the most successful out of all of them at 99.4 million. So then, of those three, I mean, and then along comes Mortal Kombat and does 122 million. So, it came out on top. But either way, that's a big gamble to go off of if you're looking at, are people coming to the movies for these adaptations? And maybe they were looking at it as, well, Street Fighter did almost 100 million, so maybe we can do better than that. We'll be okay. Budget 20 million. There you go. Hence the reason why they're still using this music for the new versions that came out in 2026 recently. So definitely made a lasting impression. But that's it for the recap. That's going to bring us to a little segment called Best Review, Worst Review, where we go ahead and take a random couple of reviews from the internet and read them out loud. One is a 1-star, the other is a 10-star. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the 10-star. The 10-star labels it as flawless victory. I just played the Mortal Kombat games for the first time ever this week, so I've been dying to rewatch the film. I'm pleased to say I still love it as much as the first time. The actors are all perfect in their roles, but Raiden and Shang Tsung are particular standouts. The fights are great. Johnny Cage versus Scorpion and Liu Kang versus Reptile. The story is fun and gets right to the point. There's some beautiful cinematography, the set design is absolutely stunning, and the soundtrack is legendary. This person knows what they're talking about. That stuff is all well and good, but this film also has something more that's hard to put my finger on that makes it really special to me. It's not nostalgia, as I only watched it for the first time last year, but for some reason, this movie just has a special place in my heart. Overall, upon rewatching, I'm glad to say that this film is still a flawless victory. And what's interesting is I think that what they mean by saying that this is like a form of nostalgia, even though if you haven't seen it, you saw it for the first time, it just encapsulates an era, the 90s. Movies of that generation, of that era, of that time frame, you can just put them on, it just screams nostalgia to me. You see that in all kinds of movies. Jumanji, like we mentioned, even just Toy Story, with the way the CGI is done, does that as well. But that's going to bring us to our worst review. 1 star, a movie to get you out in the fresh air. I'll apologize up front for keeping the details short in this review. I just couldn't elaborate further, due to only lasting a very short time before fleeing from this tribe. I can honestly say that the acting was nothing short of atrocious. If you want to get your friends or family out in the fresh air, or perhaps participating in healthier activities than sitting in front of the box, put this on. Maybe it's just me, but I lasted all of 11 minutes before fleeing. I had to walk away and go play with the cat. Thankfully, I have a cat, a computer, a good book, and umpteen other channels to watch. Anything but this. 1 star. That's a little harsh, man. A 1-star review. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I could see, okay, like maybe they were just like Mortal Kombat. Okay, maybe this has to do with saving the princess at the end, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of something completely out. Maybe this is a movie with talking animals. So if it has talking animals, I'm going to be great. But if there's no talking animals, then I'm out. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. I don't know what you think going into a movie called Mortal Kombat, but what can I say? Peopling. What do you think about that 1-star review, Matthias?
I mean, yeah, it just sounds like somebody that just doesn't understand like the premise of it at all, I think they just came into it like blind, or already had their misgivings about Mortal Kombat as a whole, and they were just like, well, nothing's going to change my mind. And they saw it and like, yeah, I hate it. So yeah, I mean, you're going to get that, it's, is it a perfect movie? Yeah, certainly not. But I think for people that were there when the game came out, that played in the arcade cabinets, that then later got access to it in their home consoles. It's a testament to them. It's nostalgia. It's a feel good movie, and I think that's exactly what this movie is. It's a feel good movie. I never turn it on and feel like, oh, I'm wasting my time watching it. It's like I turn it on, I'm like, there's stuff here that I like. It's like you can tell this is like a passion project. So
For sure.
I think that's the enduring testament for me to it.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, that's going to bring us to a couple of our final segments here, and this is going to be the Rotten Tomatoes score. And the Rotten Tomatoes score has this: critics at 44%, an audience score of 58%, which I'm a little surprised at, to be honest with you. It's like audience score 58. I expected the critics score to not be too forgiving, but the audience score, this was one of those that I was kind of surprised to see 58. I thought it would have at least seen 72% or something, but I don't know. It is what it is. I'm a little disappointed in that because I legitimately thought this would be a little bit higher. In any case, that brings us to our final segment here, and that's going to be our final rating system. So normally our rating is based on story, performances, dialogue, production design, and entertainment value. However, today we're going to go ahead and just give a general rating, mainly because I don't have access to the application that I created to be able to do this rating system right now because it's malfunctioning. And my math is mathing fairly well, but in order to do weighted averages for multiple categories between two different people in my head, that's a big no. If I could do that, I wouldn't be doing a podcast. I'd probably be a millionaire right now, somewhere, somehow, in working as some executive director. Who knows? But that said, we're going to go ahead and just give a general rating overall for this movie that we can guess what it more or less would have been based on our scores here. So I am going to go ahead and lead off here, and I'm going to give this movie out of a score of 1 to 5. I'm going to give it, keeping in mind these categories, like I said, story, performances, dialogue, production design, and entertainment value. I'm going to give it a 3.7. I think a 3.7 is where I feel good at with this movie. What about you, Matthias?
Mm-hmm. I think for me, it's a solid 3.5 movie.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's where I put it at mine. So, I mean, I'll definitely chirp on the same thing that Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune gave Mortal Kombat, back in the day. He said, the only halfway decent video game movie turned into a movie that I have seen.
And that's actually high praise.
Yeah, and he gave it a thumbs up, too.
Yeah.
Gene Siskel is known for kind of being an a-hole when it comes to these type of movies. So, so hearing that, I'm like, okay, if Gene liked it, then yeah, so be it.
Yep, good enough for Gene, good enough for us. Well, all right, folks. And just like that, our time is up. But as always, we want to thank you all for listening to us, whether it be on your day off or your commute to work. We appreciate you taking the time to hit download or push play on your device. We also want to remind you, if you're not already, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Second Way to Kill a Werewolf, where we encourage you to share your thoughts and opinions on the many, many posts that we put up. Also, if you enjoyed this show, be sure to share it with a friend. It really helps us out more than you could ever know. That said, I'm Damien.
And I'm Matthias.
And we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.